Amy.
Good morning. We'll call this meeting order. First, we're going to do the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dan wants to lead us in a song.
Ask the clerk to do the roll call.
Supervisor Conover.
Here.
Supervisor Mayday.
Here.
Supervisor Diamond.
Here.
Supervisor Hogan.
Here.
Supervisor Turner.
Here.
Supervisor Bruno.
Here.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Here.
Patrick.
Here.
Supervisor Drossy.
Here.
Supervisor Bean. Supervisor Cristito.
Here.
Supervisor Molino.
Here.
Supervisor Stroud.
Here.
Supervisor Wild.
Here.
Supervisor McGowan. Supervisor Strainer.
Here.
Supervisor Etu. Supervisor Thomas.
Here.
Supervisor Runyon.
Here.
Chairman Garrity.
Here.
Forum is established.
And I apologize for the tight quarters. We thought we were going to be in the boardroom, but that's not done yet. I know that's part of the 5-year plan. So we hope to be in there before the end.
5-year plan.
Into the calendar year. Anyways, we'll run this like we would normally would run a board of supervisors meeting. So what happens right now is what we're going to do, we'll open up for public comment. And I'll ask that if you want to come up and address the board, to keep your comments to 3 minutes. And please identify yourself and where you're from. And we'll keep the public comment open as long as we need to. And at the end, we'll give a chance. There will be no back and forth. So if you have a comment to make, we'll take all comments. Then at the end, if the supervisors have anything to add, we'll open it up to them. So who would like to be first? Try to limit it to 3 minutes. And I know we've received a bunch of written comments, good comments, and I think we've all had a chance to read those. So whoever wants to start, just state your name and where you're from for the record, and we'll go on.
Outside or inside?
What's that?
Sit outside or inside.
Are we going to introduce the theme of today?
I think everybody knows it from the comments. It's about tourism and how they would like to see us move forward. We're going to accept their comments. And we've had a lot of good comments, John. So we have a lot of people who want to speak. So I think time is of the essence. So anybody, yes. Ben.
I just want to say for the business community, this is an opportunity for us to hear from you, to hear what's working, the direction of tourism in your eyes. So, so we encourage you to please come up and say something, and, we just want to have some dialogue about.
Yes, John.
Yes. Benny, thank you. I think, along with what Benny's saying, let's set the tone. I mean, I think this all started when Laura Pulse and Gary Thornquist and I sat down at a table and we had a great conversation. Not that we're doing anything wrong, but what could we do better? That's what we want to hear. I mean, yes, we're doing a very good job at attracting families. But are we, capturing Generation X and Z? Are we capturing, we're doing a good job with the baby boomer? How about the alpha? I don't think we have to worry about the betas, because the betas are born this year. So we won't worry about them. But can we sharpen our focus on marketing to these other generations and expand? Because that's what, both Gary and Laura and I were talking about. So we said, well, maybe we need to have a conversation with everybody, because you have good ideas. We need to hear them. And that's one of the reasons why we brought this forward. And you've already shared some of your good ideas with us. Great ideas. Talking about sustainable workplace, we need to, expand the, parking and deal with the parking issues. But I don't wanna make this a gripe session. I mean, we could talk about the use of sales tax, capital expenditures, and all that. No, we want to talk about what can we do to improve our marketing to attract these other groups. So that we, fill in the holes. I know 4th of July, we do great. And then we go into a slump shortly after. Can we fill that slump by doing something that attracts the millennials? And get them up here? Because we certainly have the asset that they're looking for. They're looking for outside activities. Holy cow, we've got them. Are we focusing those activities on that particular group? What are the other groups? What are they looking for when they go on vacation? We should pay attention to these things. And a lot of you already said, we need more big events and more festival events, more of this. That's all good input. So, I'm not gonna go any further. But we're here to listen. But I wanna set the direction as to what we're looking for. All right, thank you.
Sure. So we'll start, who would like to be first? Go ahead. Please just state your name and where you're from for the record. Thanks.
Good morning, John Lefner. I'm the CEO of the Hyde Collection. I think there's an opportunity here in Warren County to create an interconnected, collaborative promotional strategy for arts and culture. And I think Warren County serves as sort of a blueprint for success nationally. We have a density of arts and culture in upstate New York, but particularly in this county, that I think we could capitalize on from a tourism perspective. We create these pockets of draws throughout the year, but we need cohesion. And I think if there was a county-supported advertising and promotional strategy to make the world know that Warren County is a beacon, it's magnetic for arts and culture. You think about all the assets that Supervisor Stroud just mentioned. We show up when it comes to arts and culture. And we interlock with our hospitality partners. So when people come to Warren County to participate at the Hyde, with the symphony, performances at the Sembrick and beyond, and on, everybody wins, right? We fill our beds in the hotels, we fill our seats in the restaurants. Glens Falls is going through a major renaissance right now, and it's so exciting to be a part of that. When I grew up locally, if the Civic Center wasn't hopping, if there wasn't something going on downtown Glens Falls for a young person, there wasn't much opportunity, right? Well, that's changed, and there's something for everyone. We talk about these varied audiences and how we can comprehensively serve them. Yes, they're going to enjoy the great outdoors, and we're at the entrance to the Adirondack Park. But for those young people that want to participate in arts programming and hopefully create a lifelong love of art and be inspired, we can meet them there too. New York State Council on the Arts announced 2 weeks ago that the Hyde's going to receive $1.35 million in funding to reopen historic Cups House as the Hyde Center for Arts Education. That's where we meet people where they're at. Fine art can be intimidating. I'm the CEO of an art museum. I do not have an art background. So I had to go suffer through some imposter syndrome my first couple of years on the job until I built those skills. But that's because people at the Hyde and in this community made me feel welcome. And we're going to do that in a program like that. And we show up over and over and over again across a wide array of our demographics in this community. We do a really good job of serving the people in Warren County. And I think we can do an even better job of encouraging people to come and visit here, spend time here, spend money here. But we need cohesion. There's a lot of ambition. We all have a mutual respect for each other, but sometimes we don't even know about each other's schedules. What are our shared operating hours? How do we avoid stepping on each other's toes with signature events when we're all competing for the same physical space, for galas and luncheons and things of that nature? So having a cohesive strategy of communication internally that can then be fostered and blossom into a nationwide promotional strategy for arts and culture in Warren County, I think is certainly timely. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
You might get.
It could be a short.
Sasha Hardy, Adirondack Winery and the Adirondack Wine and Food Festival. You mentioned events, Supervisor Strauss, so I'm gonna want to speak on that, in particular from the perspective of Wood Park. I do think that there are opportunities at Wood Park that we could do to attract more events, and in particular larger ones to do business there. One would be parking. Visitors get frustrated with the lack of parking. And I can tell you that you have to source it from many different avenues via favors. That is a really big drawback for that grounds. The second is the cost to rent the grounds, especially if you were to combine it with Westbrook Road. So if we were able to bring that price down to attract events, I think that would help because we really don't offer a lot of services at the park, which makes it very difficult to put on an event because you're having to source everything from trash to more restrooms to security to facilities, maintenance. It's literally everything and it's starting from the ground up and all you have is a piece of grass and one person to help execute. And it just makes it very difficult, which I think is a drawback for an event producer. And I would say too, I do feel there needs to be some sort of covered pavilion of some sort. So the grounds are big enough that I think it could support that. You know, there might be disagreements as to where, but we've had a lot of issues with water and collection and it's everybody knows how awful May was and then the events that we have, but that's not the point. The point is that, again, it's just something that would make it easier for event planners to put on an event. And nothing that has to be massive, but maybe something that holds like 100 people and is off to the side, maybe where we have ground issues, something like that. The other thing is very little marketing support. So when you look at a place like SPAC or I don't know, pretty much any event facility, I'm thinking like the Berkshires, there's just so many of them. We have an almost non-existent marketing presence for Wood Park for the events that are put on there. So there's not a lot of forward thinking or like, it's just, we're all on our own. So I think it would make sense to have some sort of cohesive marketing for the events that take place there. That's kind of like part of the price. Okay, so moving on from that, as a business owner in Lake George and Queensbury for 17 years and being right on the strip, when we first started, the foot traffic in Lake George was an assumption in the summer and then the shoulder season started to grow. But I think that it's really important that we all kind of admit and recognize that over the last few years, foot traffic has really been faltering in our peak season. And the peak season is where the bread and butter is. And we need to make that bread and butter to support the rest of the shoulder seasons. And I think that we have done too much assuming that people know that Lake George is a great place to visit in the summer, especially when you talk about young people and they have no, you know, they might have no idea that we exist and they're 2 hours away because we don't do a great job of marketing to them that summer is the place to be in Lake George even. So I think kind of getting back to that. And then when we build back up again and we have strong foot traffic, then maybe we've got some time to focus on winter when it's really hard to get people here or the shoulder seasons. But I do think that we could spend a lot more time and effort just marketing the best season that we have. I will add enforcement of marijuana. I think that we're turning into a little bit of a Las Vegas sometimes when you walk down the strip in Lake George. It's an overwhelming smell that gets into all of our stores and restaurants. And I don't know what can be done about it, but I'm just going to admit that it does make us look not that attractive. So those are my 3 points. I have a million ideas that could grow our younger clientele. And I would be happy to be part of that because I know that we're good at that. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you.
Good, John. I want to keep them short because we have a lot of people.
I just want to expand. I read your comment, Sasha. Good comment. and the covered structure. And I suggested a tensile structure maybe 10 years ago. But it would give assurance to people that invest all this money that they're not gonna get rained out. And heaven knows, we've had a lot of rain. How many events could have come if they knew there was a protective structure? Not only that, but if you put an apron around it, you could expand the season.
Yeah.
But
I will just add to that, very good point, because we have grass under our tents. And when you have rain, that doesn't help that you still have mud under your tents. So, yes.
Next, anybody else with different comments or sure, please.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for organizing this. I think right now, as we approach almost over 20 years with Octax in Warren County, this is a pretty critical thing. And a lot of the board members, have been involved with tourism at the town level and at the county level that are on this board currently. Unfortunately, for somebody in tourism, you guys aren't going to stick around forever. So, I think it's important to lay out the next 20 years. I think that's a really critical thing. We have 20 years under our belt. We have some victories. We have some defeats, some embarrassments, some things to celebrate. But I think to go look at those and take a 30,000-foot view of what we are doing with Octax. This year, we're going to pass over $100 million in Octax that's collected. I don't want to be negative, but I don't think Lake George is that much better than it was when I came here 25 years ago. When I look at last weekend's business with Americade, when I look at Memorial Day, this year we had Winter Carnival, we actually had ice, we had snow, we had cold weather. Was it bad? Lake George is never bad. It's always good. But was it better? Was it $100 million better? I don't think so. And I think, to take a very big strategic look at this is pretty critical, especially given the institutional knowledge that's on this current board that we have at Warren County, representing all of us in the county, not just Lake George. Some things that need to be considered. Charleswood Park was a $17 million investment approximately 10 years ago. Are we really utilizing that to its maximum capacity? I know when it was originally pitched, it was pitched as it's going to be profitable. It's not going to cost any money. We're going to charge and we're going to make money on this thing. Maybe we ought to take a step back and look at that policy. And maybe that policy ought to be, it's $500 a day. And there's a blanket insurance policy. You go to one person, you sign one form, and you could be in there next Saturday if it's open. Right now, what I hear, we do about 10 events ourselves. Excuse me, we partner. I would bet 80% of the events that come to Lake George, we're involved with, either with parking, beer, whatever it is. I spent 2 hours last night with the Hudson Valley Firemen's going over their event a week and a half from now. We're heavily involved with it. And that includes, I see Amy over there at Glens Falls. Sure, sign us up. We're ready to go anywhere. And we do. And we enjoy that. So I think when it comes to these events and tourism, we're sort of uniquely hardwired in to what's going on. And I know the biggest complaint I hear, they'd like a pavilion and they'd like a lot of stuff. But I think we got to look at what events have been successful there. What are their requirements? The number one complaint, boy, they don't make it easy, is what I hear. You got to go to the village. You got to go to the county. You got to go to this guy. It's a bit of a process. Can we streamline that? I think we can. That's not a hard thing. That's something on the short list to be done this year. Let's look at the cost structure. When that property sits there empty, it costs us the same amount of money to mow the grass as if there was a family reunion there on Sunday. Let's make that easy. A lot of communities do that. I think when we look at Lake George, the algorithm of heads in beds, we've been doing it for 20 years on and off. We've heard all kinds of, ways of measuring. My friend Bill, we often talk a little bit about, the ability to measure and, calculate stuff. To Mike, I've got a friend, Bill, and, but it's, so I always mix, and you guys talking almost look the same. So I always mix you guys up from college, but I have to laugh because how do we measure this? This is so difficult to measure. And I think all of us can remember back to, I grew up in Vermont. I can remember the ads for Gaslight Village. you know, and they were on TV all the time. I never went there, but boy, I can still remember the ads for it. Friend of mine had passed away, Dick Willman. He got 10 cents for every bumper sticker he put on a car. The old ones, you wired them on. We need to promote the hell out of Warren County, not try to measure heads in beds or whatever, just promote. If an event happens in Lake George or Glens Falls or somewhere else and it pours rain and nobody comes, is that a failure? It isn't if that event promoted our region, if the investment we made into that event promoted it. And I think that's a key thing. I think we make a mistake there. I think we give money away. We're kind of gambling like I do on horses. What's going to win? What's going to lose? Some win, some lose. I think I do a little bit better at the track, to be honest, but it's tough for you guys to figure that out. I wouldn't be able to figure it out. We do 10 events, 8 of them lose money, 2 of them make money. How do you guess? But you still do them, you know, and it's a promotional thing for my business. People see me on Facebook. They see me in the Times-Union. I think as many times as we could put our name out there, the better. Let's change that algorithm. Like any other grant that you apply for at the state level, if I say I'm going to apply for a grant, I give them an estimate. It's going to cost me $100,000 to build it. Here's the receipts. At the end, I build it. I get a CO. I show back up with my $100,000 in receipts. The state gives me $100,000. Right now with this process, you show up and say, well, I'm going to bring all these people. I've heard numbers 18, 20,000 guest nights on a weekend. Where are they all staying? I don't get it. No, if you did an ad on, you know, the Times-Union, you did an ad with Mannix, you did something hardcore, you propose that, it gets approved. This is a process that can be handled by Warren County Tourism. That office could handle this review process quite easily. If I come in and I say, I'm going to run $20,000 worth of TV ads, which I am going to do this fall to promote our region for our Oktoberfest. Thank you for the grant money. I will bring you $20,000 worth of receipts from the TV and radio ads that I'm running. You reimburse me for that. Not all the other weird stuff that I might have padded the bill with, the hardcore invoice. And that audit process becomes very easy. Also, the county can advise a new promoter on how to advertise. Well, maybe that 20 grand isn't where it should be spent. Maybe you ought to put 10 grand in social media, whatever. There can be some advice with that. That's certainly something that we could implement in the next year to 2 years quite easily. Does it cost any extra? No, it doesn't. Currently, there's sort of a quid pro. Okay, we'll give you the festival space, and for 5 grand, we're going to give you 5 grand oct tax. You know, that doesn't really work. How about I give you the festival space for the cleaning fee, and I'll give you 5 grand as long as you spend that 5 grand advertising somewhere. My last point, the oldest oct tax in the world is in Hawaii, 1956, about the time it became a state. To draw people there from mainly the United States, they implemented an oct tax. And it's very simple. It's evolved. If you spend money on advertising and you could prove that, you bring the bill in, they reimburse you for it. It's that simple. I think that's a plan we should be looking at because as Sasha just said, there's events that happen across the street from me with almost no marketing at all. I'm across the street. I don't know they're happening. How can that be? And I think that's a major mistake in the events that we're doing. So I know there's a lot going on. I'm hoping these meetings will continue and a pretty constructive work group can get together. And, you know, about a month ago, Mayor Blaze, I still call him Mayor Blaze, said, you got to have a big, hairy goal here. You know, a BHOG. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of that, a big, hairy, audacious goal. Let's reformat how we use oct tax in Warren County. Okay. And I think, you know, look at each department, how much do they need? And allocate that money on a long-term basis to those organizations that are working on that. That includes the CVB, the Warren County Tourism Department, the towns that currently get approximately 1%, and then another 1%, maybe that we can use for other things. But have a discussion on stable funding for all these groups that are working on tourism on a long-term basis. This ad hoc, oh, I need money for a van, or I need money for internet, or I need a new website. You guys constantly spend a ton of time listening to these requests throughout the whole year. I don't think it's productive time for the whole county board of supervisors to be listening to these requests. A lot of meetings I've been to, it's tough. And every year it's a little different. This year we're doing it this way. Next year it's that way. Let's come up with a big plan, and that'll be our plan for the next 10 to 20 years. and see what we can do. Learn from our successes, study our losses, and the next 100 million that we bring in the next 10 years. Let's make sure it's spent so that 10 years from now, the 8,000 people that work in tourism in this county have a better standard of living than they do today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much, and thank you for holding this forum today. It is very tough following John Carr and that passion, I'll tell you that. I'll do my best. Take a little twist on this. I think the path to a healthy tourism community is through data. And John, you're absolutely right. The area has changed. If you go back to the days of Storytown, Warren County back in the day, and then you go to today, everything's changed. Warren County's changed, but mainly our marketing areas have changed dramatically. Give you a for instance, I'd like to suggest there's not 4 seasons. There's actually about 32 seasons in Warren County. If you look at just this past week, you can look at Americade as a season. Americade attracts, we are the host of it, I'm with Fort William Henry, I'm sorry. Americade attracts white America, 55 and older. Talk to many of them. Just 4 days earlier than that, Memorial Day weekend, at the Fort William Henry, that's the date I have, was primarily Southern Asian, Indian, Pakistani. A big shift that's happening in that regard. And you know that through data. There's a lot of research companies and a lot of data out there. And I think Heather and Warren County Tourism do a great job. I think her collaboration with Gina and the data that they support is phenomenal. And I think getting it to the board level and really understanding this data and taking a look at it is very important. The data should answer 4 fundamental questions. Number 1 is, who has disposable income? Who's coming up? What are they looking for? John, you alluded to that. What do they want? How do we reach them? And then how do we keep them? Those are the questions that I think this data that you get needs to be answered. For that Indian family, one part of data is surveys. We talk to our guests, we send out a lot of surveys, and actually sat down with a couple of families that were staying at, that were Indian, large families. They loved it here. First time to Warren County, absolutely loved it here. And I said to them, did you eat in our restaurants? And they said, we did. But we had to call your restaurant and ask them to change the menu because we're Muslim and we can't have alcohol, and your fish had beer batter. And our restaurant did, gratefully, and they were pleased. And now we have a Indian family for life. They'll come. But unless we knew that, unless we surveyed them, we would have never done that to our restaurant. We would have never changed it. If you drive by the Fort William Henry in the next couple of days, you're going to see latte on our marquee. We now say latte. That's an Indian smoothie. If you haven't had one, they're delicious. But you know what? Are these shifts dramatic? This one was a slow process. Some are more dramatic than others. But we know this through data, through research. And there is no criticism of Heather, Paul, this Warren County Tourism, and this board. This is the best. I've been doing it 41 years, best I've ever seen. It's just that things change around us. Do I think middle-class America is coming back? I think so. There's huge shifts happening right now in middle-class America, in the wealth, especially in our marketing areas. Can we get them with what we have to offer? We have the lake. But these seasons, these 32 seasons, call them opportunities. We can create other opportunities with other events, as people mentioned, other demand generators, other attractions, freshwater aquariums, etc. Everybody in this room has great ideas and they're all valid. It's just execute them. We've been through a number of studies and the studies are all valid. If they don't have to sit on a shelf, we execute them. So Heather, keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. And board, thank you for listening.
Thanks, Sam.
Sure. Please step. So just
Sue
state your
Katana.
name for and what you represent. Okay.
I'm Sue Katana, and I'm here on behalf of Hickory in Warrensburg, begun by my parents in 1946. So we've been around a long time. We've had many boom years and many years where we've struggled and not even opened. I'd like to kind of reinforce the notion of long-term strategic planning. I think it's important that while Lake George has been the engine that has driven tourism in Warren County for a long time, I think it might be important to consider how to broaden that scope. And the focus has been on single events, bringing tourists in for the big bang, the big bucks, the big numbers. I would suggest that strategically, we might be able to consider moving forward with more public-private partnerships where you as an agency, a government agency, could collaborate with local smaller businesses that are struggling to create the infrastructure and the assets, enhance the assets that you already have, but are not accessing, not using, not leveraging for everybody's benefit. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not even gonna wait for you to recognize me. Anyways, this will be short, because I'm short. My name is Sue Wilder, and I'm partially a Lake Luzerne resident. Our supervisor would be very pleased to announce that. The other part of me lives in the town of Hadley, but it makes no difference because I love both small towns. And I don't want our tourism department to forget the small towns, because we feed into all your big events. You bring people here, they want to do something else that's off the beaten path. So why not come to Lake Luzerne? Why not follow a different path? Why not go to Hickory Mountain? Why not go to Stony Creek and see our small little towns that we have here? So I thank you for not forgetting us, for letting us be a part of the bigger picture of Lake George. And I don't mean to offend anybody, because Lake George is really a big draw to bring you to our community, to Warren County, which is a wonderful thing. I remember a long time ago watching Happy Days, and Mr. C was going to be away and his wife was going to be in charge of the paint sale that they were going to have. Well, Marion did her very level best, and when he came home to look at the papers, the invoices of the paint that had been sold, he said, I don't know how you did it. You didn't sell hardly any paint, but you sold everything else. And she said, it was the other little things that you need. You need the paint rollers, you need the drop cloths, you need everything else. And that's what she zeroed in on. And so I'm saying to you today, you need us to make Warren County a place that people want to come to. But my job is at Warren County, at Lake Luzerne, is to be the ambassador, because we're known as a very friendly town. People come to us to see our historic sites. We have 4 historic sites in Lake Luzerne, and I'm sure you didn't even know about them. But one of them is the most popular, pulp mill. What's pulp? I want you to know that we have the first United States made grinder in our pulp mill. It's in the 1860s. It's in there. We greet people every time they come. What we hear are, I didn't know you were here. They want to know, people who come to us are off the beaten path. They want to be a part of something. They want to belong. They want to walk away with a little bit of knowledge. I was in this little town. Do you know what they have there? That's what they want, and they'll be able to come back again. We are a friendly town, and we bring them to us. I think the idea of a shared schedule is an awesome idea. This is so many times we need to know what everybody else is doing. These are awesome ideas, but they're big bucks ideas. What we offer to people who come to Lake Luzerne are free opportunities to visit our 4 historic sites. Hopefully, they'll wander into a restaurant, or they'll buy gas there, or something to support our little community. We're very proud of that. People want to have roots. They want to know that they were there. So when you come again, we offer our visitors a map. You know how awesome it is. We're a paper industry part of the country. So we provided a walking tour map or a driving map. Takes you through Hadley, Lake Luzerne, and on the other side of it, it tells you some of our historic sites. People love it. So don't forget our small towns. They're the ones to kind of help you guys along, because after a while, you're going to have the middle-class people here, and they're going to want to know, what are we going to do with our kids? And they all can't afford a $20 meal for each kid. or they can't afford a $50 entry fee to each event. So unless it's their special vacation. So anyways, I'm Sue Wilder and I hope you'll come visit me at the Pot Hill or the One Room Schoolhouse or the 1832 Visitor Center that we have in Lake Lucerne. Thank you.
Thanks, Sue. You have something to say?
Yeah, just 1 minute, I promise.
You're on the
I just
clock.
wanted to follow up on Ms. Wilder's comments. But in Warren County, we have our guest from Lake Lucerne. We also have 65,000 other tourism ambassadors. I moved up here 39 years ago from the other side of the Bourne Bridge on Cape Cod. And during that 39 years, I brought up countless family, friends, people I went to college with, people I went to high school with, who live all over the United States. They've come to Warren County, and we just haven't focused on Lake George or Glens Falls. We focused on the entire county, and they're amazed. They're amazed at all the opportunities. My dad was amazed at the Hyde Museum. He had been to museums all over the United States, all over the world, Europe. Couldn't believe the collection that the Hyde had. We took him down. He went to a concert, the Glens Falls Symphony. Couldn't believe that there was a symphony in little old Glens Falls. I've visited every municipality, and I put on the comments that we should be, we're whole, we're 12 municipalities. We should be sharing information so that Glens Falls residents know what's going on throughout the county. And they can tell their family and friends, people from neighboring counties, neighboring states, what's going on, and encourage them to come. That complements, I think, our marketing programs on a more local level. Thank you. Yep. Thanks.
Anybody else wish to your shirt? Remember to tell them who you are.
Yes, sir. Tyler Herrick, Spruce Hospitality Group, Queensbury Hotel, Fairfield Suites, some outlet malls, and a bunch of other properties we don't know what we're doing yet with. Unlike, I probably am going to say something that is a big budget, big number, but I think the county is missing out on a key demographic, and that's youth sports and youth sports tourism. Youth sports is a major driver across the entire country. As a parent who's kind of crazy with youth sports because of my wife and whatnot, we alone with 4 kids in travel sports a couple years ago spent $30,000 on travel sports. I feel like we're also at an inflection point with some of our existing infrastructure, with East Field, with obviously everything that's been in the paper about the rec center. And you look at, the exit 18 or that type of area, and there's definitely, locations that we could, as a public-private partnership, invest a sizable amount of money, but to build a sports complex that would be indoors, that could have, versatility with AAU basketball, AAU volleyball, dance, cheer, hockey, anything you can think of. And you can look at time and time again from different areas of even New York State, look at the Nexus Center that the state, I think, put $25 million into, and what the Nexus Center in Utica has done for hockey tournaments and youth sports in all those hotels that popped up. What are the 2 things that families spend money on, even when they don't have any money to spend? It's their pets. And it's their kids. Kids are getting, crazy specialized. Look at all the new pop-up centers that are coming. There's a brand new one that just opened in Fort Edward. There's obviously the new ETS center that's opening down on Cary Road. The 518 gym continues to expand and do more and more. And I just think that these are families that are going to come. It's a guaranteed 3-night stay. You schedule the tournaments. I know it's for any school folks, it's not the best for maybe the school all the time, but they schedule the tournaments where you got to be there on a Thursday night. It's good rates. It's non-weather dependent. And I also think it's something that would attract, we also talk at kind of the 2 edges, something for our community, for our local residents, in addition as, driving tourism dollars. You look at the Impact Center, that I know, you know, the gentleman, Kevin Herter, I think he used to play for the Hawks. Now he's somewhere on the West Coast. He invested money into Clifton Park. That Impact Center is full nonstop with just AAU basketball. I think that, you know, we don't look at the rec center in the right light of what that center does for our entire county. From an economic impact standpoint, there's approximately 550 kids that are in AYHA. It's not just Warren County kids. These are kids that are coming from Clifton Park. We have kids that play on my daughter's hockey team that drive down 2 nights a week from Plattsburgh. We have families in Washington County. They come, they drop their kid off. They got to be there an hour before. The practice is an hour. And then after they get dressed, that's a 2.5-hour window where families from other counties are coming to ours to go to Stewart's, to go to Price Chopper, to go out to dinner, to go to O'Toole's. You know, my wife's part of a book club where really it's not a book club, but when the kids are in practice, her and a couple other moms go to O'Toole's and have a couple drinks. So, you know, there's just a huge opportunity. And I think that, you know, it's a big thing, but, you know, baseball tournaments, look at Golden Goal and what they, you know, have able to done just out in Fort Anne. And I know I'm not trying to be biased or anything, but, you know, the exit 18 corridor to have West Mountain and all the youth sports that they do with all the, you know, after school programs and racing. You have the Dome with AFIRM, you know, who really changed the model on what they're doing, but they're starting to get their act together. And I've heard reports they're going to put in all new turf fields and everything outside, which obviously, you know, lessens the impact of weather. And they don't cancel at no time. I mean, I've driven through blizzards to go to hockey tournaments. It doesn't cancel. It's always guaranteed. And I think it is just something that would not only benefit, like I said, our local residents, because we need something, and I think it might attract more people that would want to move here and live here. I mean, we have people now that are coming, that are relocating their families because of the Adirondack United. There were 2 families last year that moved from Lake Placid and Plattsburgh just because they want their daughter to have the opportunity to play high school hockey. It's a huge thing right now. That little rec center with 1 sheet of ice is supporting Queensbury High School. It's supporting the Rivermen program for the Glens Falls. So I think also, you know, Rivermen has Warrensburg, has Lake George, has Bolton students. It's really an entire county use of that facility, plus all the AYHA and everything else. I just think it's a really big opportunity that we'd have, but it would be a very large ticket, you know, item to do.
Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Hi, Kathy Munsell from Fort William Henry. I will quick comments. I think that the idea of thinking big and just look at the turnout here, how people do care. I think we have a very unique situation in Warren County, and that is that we trust each other. We're at a great point. Public and private work together with the same goals. So I guess I would ask for possibly a repository of the next big idea. And I say that because I think that in Lake George, we were able to get the DRI because we all worked hard to go for it. There is money. There's a CFA meeting this afternoon at the Carriage House, which is to tell everybody what the state has in money and throw the big idea at it. They reallocated money for the big idea, like in the hundreds of millions. They want communities to come up with big things. So don't deny your ideas. Let's get a repository for the craziest of all ideas. Worst thing you say is no, but you put it out there. We tried it, just like John said. Some work, some don't. I think the planning department in Warren County is phenomenal, that we should, work with them in terms of their ability to understand the assets that we have. And, let's go for the big stuff. Thank you.
Kathy.
Anybody else?
Hey everyone, thanks for having this. My name is Robert Hart. I'm with Revolution Rail. We're the rail bike company. We're in our 9th season right now, and I don't want to echo everything. Nice to see you, Sid. I don't want to echo everything that's been said, but the cohesion part of like how do we work together and find each other. When we first came here, that was a real sort of like we didn't know how to reach out and find the other. Find the other businesses to work together. But I'll give you a quick example of how that has happened. like 4 years ago, right when I started, my bus broke down and Pete from Beaverbrook Outfitters was like, hey, use my bus. 2 years later, Pete's bus broke down and I was able to help him. But we were like, hey, you do rafting, I do rail bikes. Let's try to meet in the middle and let's do something that we can do together. And one of those ideas was like tubing. So people hop off our rail bike, they hop on a tube, which he sold maybe like 250 rides that year before. Last year, we sold thousands of tubing and rail bike rides because we worked together. There's a lot of businesses here today that have probably no idea who I am. They may have heard of Revolution Rail, but if we had a place where we could all kind of connect, I refer people all the time to Fort William Henry, or to Garnet Hill, or there's a number of places, but I don't have relationships with these hotels or how to go to a brewery or where to go get a bite to eat. These are the first questions that always happen afterwards. And if we had a place where we could kind of, gel those ideas, share event calendars, all those things would be really helpful for us as a business. But I think we could also share that because we do have data and I'd love to share, and I'd love to get some data from you guys, from other businesses. We brought in, 3 years ago, we brought in 50,000 people to this area and people don't even know who we are. Last year, we brought in 35,000 people to the area. So it went way down. We've created 50 jobs. 12 of those are full-times, 401ks, all these things that we're a growing business in the area and we want to maintain that. But the infrastructure or how to get the word out about who we are and what we do, and then to share everything. I feel like that connective tissue is missing. We just did like an internal, like when you come in, you check in, they did a poll a couple of years ago and was like, how many people, is this your first time in the Adirondacks? Of those thousands of people that filled it out, half of them, this was their very first time here, and their primary reason for coming was to do our rail bike operation. But half of them have been coming for generations and they found out about us. We've been teaming up with Lake George Steamboat Company recently down in Hadley. And this is the last point I'll kind of say, is that we're trying to connect the southern and the northern parts of Warren County. Because I think up where our flagship is in the North Creek area, we get kind of lost sometimes. So we're in North Creek, we're in Thurman, and then we're down in the Hadley, Lake Luzerne area. And by being able to marry those north and south, if there's a connective way that we can kind of market together, I think it would be really a powerful thing. So I look forward to hopefully working with these businesses. And if there's a way to get a work group together, I would love that. So thanks for your time. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jim Siblin from the EDC, and it's heartening, by the way, to see so many businesses that we have a relationship with here who are sharing some of their feelings about it. RevRail is an example of something that I think is part of our hidden economy. We've been helping RevRail for as long as I've been in the EDC role, and I was shocked to find out just the number of unique visitors that they were bringing. And it brings me to a larger question, which is to Supervisor Strauss' point originally, we have a history, a legacy of tourism and attractions that we are building on, but we sometimes are blind to the way that we are perceived, particularly from people who we're not used to seeing here. The people that come to Rob's RevRail, I've also engaged with anecdotally. And what's interesting is the way that they see our community. They see our community as a collection of assets that many of us don't even know are here. Many of the same people who go to his RevRail attraction are driven to things like the mountain bike trails of Gurney Lane. And in fact, combine these kind of assets together into one kind of collective trip. And one part of their group might be doing part of that one day while another part is doing another. An interesting piece of this was the Frisbee golf course that is at Crandall Park, which received more than 40,000 recorded rounds on it in 1 year. And those are people who take the time to actually make their presence known by registering on the app. I'm sure it's significantly higher than that. And yet we never even think of that as part of the asset that attracts people here. if we're interested in understanding how we can build on the tremendous asset base we have, I do agree with Sam and many others that the data is the key to it. That figuring out not only how the people who have always come here feel about us, but what are the needs and wants of the people who maybe are just starting to become aware of us or not even aware of us. And to that end, we've been focused from an EDC standpoint on this for several years. We looked back over the history with the support of the county. And in fact, when Ryan was administrator of the county, he helped us start this data work. And we looked at all the way back to the times of the revolution and discovered there has never been a time, for as long as data has been collected in any way, there's never been a time that less than $1 out of $4 in this community wasn't coming from outside of this community. And there are times when it's been closer to 1 out of 2. So for more than 200 years, between 25 and 50% of our economy is based on people who come from outside. And could I say that we really spend 50% of our mind share, or even 25% of our mind share of understanding not only what they're using, but what they want? If we're going to really be serious about this, I think we have to be able to open ourselves up to that. The county's done a wonderful job, sometimes by accident. Yesterday, I was downtown with a group of people that were looking to map out some additional broadband texture downtown. And I saw this group of young men. They were kind of running around frenetically downtown, and they had this clipboard in their hands. And I asked them, "What are you doing? Who are you? Like, can I help you?" And they said, "Well, we got this list of 8 places that we're considering moving to. There's 4 guys, live 2 of them in Brooklyn, 2 of them in Queens. They work together." They said, "What?" I said, "So tell me more about that." They said, "Well, you know, we just came from Manchester, New Hampshire," which, by the way, we're not moving there. And so we're looking at this place, and this is as far away from New York City as you can get and still get in and out in a day. So that was our concentric circle. And then we looked at places that we thought were interesting. And I said, "Well, what makes this place interesting? Tell me." He goes, "Well, I got to tell you, you guys have like 10 microbreweries." So that's where we started. And he goes, "And you know, another thing is like the music and the culture here, like, it's like I'm in Brooklyn, like art matters here." So I said, "Okay, so how are you going to make your choice?" He goes, "Well, I don't know. We got a handful of other places to go." But he said, "What we're doing is figuring out where we want to live." I said, "Well, is your job like amenable to that?" He goes, "I don't know. I have no idea whether they're going to let us do it. We're going to quit if they won't, because we're living in some place like this and we're going to make it work." That's the mindset that we have to better understand. And it's not mine. I imagine it's not often yours. I would never make a decision like the one that they're proposing. And so in order to get my head around that, I got to figure out how to get their voice into our process. But one thing I'm absolutely certain of, and Heather and her team really have taken this to another level, the needs of people who are looking for a place to visit and the people that are looking for a place to live are more aligned than they've ever been. In other words, economic development and tourism are in the same market. We are attempting to present this place, not only to its residents, but to the people who are not here, and to optimize the return. People who love the place want to live in the place. Now, we should think about, who do we want to attract? Not only who could we attract, but who would we want to attract? And to that aim, if you read more of our 25-page thing, you will find that every great thing that has ever happened here, whether it's for the Fort and Kathy's family, or whether it's the medical device industry led by Dick Sheridan and Phil Morse, or whether it's Charlie Wood and all the things he did. You can keep going down the list. John Ruggie and Hudson Headwaters. Every single one of these things was an enterprise that was developed by somebody who wanted to be here and then created greatness. They didn't come here because of an economic incentive. I shouldn't probably say that out loud, but they came here because this place was the place they wanted to be, and then they decided how to do something great. Well, I'd love to find some more John Ruggies. I'd love to find some more Phil Morses. I don't know who they are. I'm not even sure we all agree on what they might look like. But I definitely know it's in our interest to figure it out. And if I could figure out how to capture the spirit of those guys that were running around with a clipboard yesterday and get them to come into a focus group, I probably would. Because they had more to say that made me proud about this community than anybody I've talked to in recent times. Like, they loved everything they saw. They just, I'm not convinced that they literally left. I think they may have just decided to stay. Now we gotta figure out, where to house them. We gotta figure out, what industries will employ them. We have work to do. But I understand that this feels like a challenge. This is the best problem in the world to have. This is a place that is loved not only by its residents, not only by people who have been coming here for 25 years, but it's loved by people who are showing up for the very first time. We have the opportunity, I think, that most communities would kill for, which is to figure out how to take that demand, meld it to not only meet our needs, but to be even greater than we are. And I applaud the county for being open to the idea of receiving everyone's voice in that. And I'm really excited to continue to work with all of you, including you, Heather, which I think you've brought amazing vision and energy to your group. We're hopeful to be partners in this.
Did you get the guys' names and numbers?
We do have them.
Good.
Hi, everyone. Yes, Amy Collins, City of Glens Falls. We talked about 365 days for a long time. Glens Falls is 365 days. So how do we make our cohesive county 365 days? We continue to work on that. There should be no shoulder seasons. I'm sorry, it should be just like sports, just like, each sport comes in every season, that main objective. So when I hear shoulder seasons, it seems less important, and it really isn't. It's as important as the main show. The DRI is a wonderful thing, but it's a long, windy road. We've just finally come to the end of the Glens Falls DRI. That took a very, very long time. And, as a director of a tourism department, I am one employee. So I want to thank former Mayor Diamond for telling me to get up here, Amy, and make some relations, I know he follows my lead as well.
I did.
But I think it is about relationships and how important they are. And I'm coming, Sue, to see.
Hope so.
I definitely am. And I haven't been on the Revolution Railway, but I was at a trade show in Springfield. Thank you to Heather and her team. They always include us. And, we're going to be working with you. So I also would like to talk about CDTA. I think it's important someday if we can get on the bus and go all the way to the northern part of the county. Really important. But I thank everyone for working with me, and we have a lot of work to do. Thank you.
Good morning. Tom Gay from the Sagamore. I've kind of listened through this morning and tried to figure out what I want to talk about or what I would say, and hearing a lot of great points. I think one of the things is that what Kathy said, think big. Warren County is big. We have the assets, we have the facilities, we have the infrastructure, but I think we need to go for the big ticket, whether it's a convention center, whether it's a sports complex. I think someone talked about 100-person amphitheater or theater. That's not big enough. We need 1,000. That's what this community can support. But the other thing is what John talked about is a cohesive message across the county and working with Warren County Tourism that it's marketing. Each of you individual business people are going to do your individual things to make it happen. But there needs to be an overall reaching marketing effort that will benefit every single one of us. The Sagamore has the Opal collection. We're one of the Opal properties. And what that is it's a collection of unique individual properties, just like our communities. We all have these unique areas within the community, and I think we need to pull those together, but under one central theme. Warren County is blank. And then when you're talking about Glens Falls, you reference that. When it's Chestertown, you reference that. Bolton, you reference that. All those things need to kind of come together under one umbrella, and those are our marketing. So appreciate the time. This is amazing to see and be part of. So thank you.
How you doing? Alexander Lombard. I'm the founder and the director of Lake George Music Festival.
I am formulating this argument. I wasn't going to speak today, but I've been so inspired by what I've been hearing. That was amazing. The big picture. Here's the solution as I see it. I just have one page I would like to read to you. This was sent to the online forum. Pretty passionate about this, so bear with me here. Kathy Munsell, I think you're absolutely correct. We got to think big here. And like I said, here's the solution. So, and first, let me just say too, I'm not attacking anybody. I'm going to mention a few groups by name. It's really just to acknowledge their success. We're all part of a big team here. Lake George's current tourism model leans heavily on short-term events, conventions, fireworks, car shows, motorcycle rallies, for example, and seasonal attractions. While these do create temporary excitement, they don't build year-round value to us. The early success of Americade has perhaps skewed our perspective, leading us to chase its unrepeatable model instead of investing in long-term solutions. And we're seeing limits to this approach. The current festival space, Wood Park, was envisioned as a major event location, in my opinion, has failed to gain traction and remains vacant the majority of the year. I think without consistent programming or a clear purpose and totally exposed to the elements, it remains underutilized. It's a missed opportunity, in my opinion, in a prime location. Similarly, we are seeing a slowdown in budget tourism because families today are prioritizing quality over quantity. With rising travel costs and limited vacation time, many are choosing more meaningful, memorable experiences over many low-cost, high-volume attractions. The demand is shifting away from these cheap thrills towards activities that offer enrichment, authenticity, and lasting value. In my opinion, we don't need more of the same. We need cultural infrastructure. Here's the solution. A performing arts center on the site of the former Waterslide World property. This would be a transformative investment. So imagine this. A 2,500 seat indoor and outdoor amphitheater supplemented by available lawn seating, designed for orchestras, jazz, theater, ballet, and other music performances. Combine this with a complete cultural campus, indoor spaces for school programs, festivals, community events. Completely immune to the weather, flexible, accessible, and beautiful. So I won't pretend this will be easy. A project of this scale is going to require significant planning, fundraising, and community buy-in. It's going to demand long-term thinking and a place used to short-term results. So changing the perspective of what Lake George can be means pushing against the familiar, and that will come with some resistance. But in my opinion, the path forward here, while it's challenging, the reward is a cultural and economic legacy that will benefit generations. This is an opportunity to diversify our local economy, retain younger residents, and put Lake George on the national map as a cultural destination. So instead of chasing low margin or high stress seasonal budget tourism, I think we can attract cultural tourists year round, visitors who stay longer, spend more, and most importantly, they return annually for these authentic, enriching experiences. I'd love to see Lake George be known as the cultural jewel of the Adirondacks, the cultural jewel of upstate New York. And most importantly, give families and residents and artists a place to grow and be inspired. It's more about entertainment. It's more than entertainment for me. It's about this grand vision and a vibrant future. So I think we need to stop chasing quick wins with short-term events and think about something on the bigger scale. I think that would be a great site to do it. So I have a lot more thoughts. I printed them all out if anybody wants to take home a copy. I feel a little bit like Jerry Maguire, but not a manifesto. I just think this is the direction we need to head. Thank you.
Yeah. I'll speak really briefly. Laura Coles. I'm here on behalf of multiple properties and businesses in Lake George. I want to thank Supervisor Stroud for listening to Gary and I a couple months ago when we proposed
the fact that we need to get more people involved in this whole conversation. My family's been in this market for 46 years. I'm hopeful my kids will stay another 46, but it's gonna take all of us to make the community benefit for the next X number of years for that all to happen. And I so appreciate the many voices and faces that I see here. I think this is honestly the biggest gathering of the community and the business leaders that are involved in tourism that I've seen in many, many years. So I want to thank all of you for helping those of us that have been here for the past 45 years to build Warren County and tourism and our community for the next 45. Thank you.
Thanks, Lawrence.
No time limit, so we have more time if anybody else would like to come here, please.
I'll be really brief as well. Terry Thornquist, Lake George RV Park on Route 149. I just wanted to thank everybody for being here. I was around when the original off-tax was proposed, and there was a lot of wrangling back and forth. And back then, the reason it passed is because the business community wanted a voice, and there was an advisory council set up at the time that it was passed. And that had gone by the wayside for a long time, and it's good to see this advisory council back. So I would just hope that this continues on and the county is open to hearing the opinions of the business people. We do want to make things work. We're not here to criticize all the time, and I want to make sure everybody understands that. My vision of the county tourism department would be a clearinghouse for all of us to get centralized data, to get centralized contract management, to be a sounding board for everyone, and to also coordinate the notification of all these things going around, some of the ideas that have passed around. So I look to the county tourism department as being the clearinghouse of tourism, and someone that we can all call or look at or have a centralized website to find out what's going on, what direction we're taking, see the marketing plan that's been proposed, be able to comment on the marketing plan that's been proposed. And I thank you for John, to listening to Laura and I. It's about, I just hope it continues on. So this is great. Thank you very much.
Hi. Hi, my name is Jose Filomeno. I'm the partner of Lake George Beach Club. I'm also a trustee for the Village of Lake George. Pardon me here. Gonna lose track. A lot of great ideas here. You know, I really love when government is open, where we speak of transparency. We want a voice. We want a voice. You're doing it. We're a room full of people here. Wish we had this many people at our board meetings every month, but I'll take this for a county. You know, we all ended up here in Lake George. Either we're generational or we moved here. I happen to move here. I went to high school and college in the Albany area, and I left. I left for the same reason that many people leave Albany. Crime, not very nice. It was Saratoga. I thought I got something better in Saratoga. And I realized I got a high bill and it just wasn't real. So we ended up in Lake George. And it was real. The realest thing I found in New York State. I remember coming to Lake George as a child and realizing Frankenstein was still there, the Minnehaha was still there. The Fort William Henry was going nowhere. And I got this feeling of comfort. I was at peace. I was at rest. And from there, married, now I have 2 kids. And now I find myself living in the village, elected in the village. And I realized something. I don't want to move out of the village. I don't want to move out of Lake George. I don't want to move out of Warren County. And so now that I've made that decision, I realize I want to create a home for my family and for my kids when they're only 5 and 7. When they graduate college and so on, that they'll want to come back and visit me. So all the work that we're doing today, though it impacts us today, really is for our children and so on and so on. And I'm selfishly doing this so my kids can visit me and take care of me when I'm older. So it's the truth. Now, we all move out here for different reasons, and we all stay for different reasons. We always have to remember that. It's so easy to criticize. I was in the bandwagon of criticizing government's this, government's that. Then I got elected. Now I can't even go to Price Chopper without hearing from a local bar owner. Why'd you do that? Like, oh, geez, I don't know. Why did I do it? Oh, because it was the right thing. sometimes the right thing doesn't sound good to you, but to the total and to the masses, it's a good thing. We have to remember that. It's so easy to point out what's wrong, but I'll tell you what's right. What's right is why I still live here. It's why we're raising 2 children here. It's why many of us are raising our families here. You know, we have opportunities to go elsewhere. We keep coming home. Lake George is home. Lake George has been home since 1755 plus to many people and to people prior to that. I heard a lot of people speaking of marketing, and this general idea keeps coming by. It must be cohesive. We're so many things wrapped into one. We're one giant Warren County burrito here. We got a lot of components, a lot of pieces. And what you're doing right now, you're trying to wrap it up and pull it together. I'm trying to visualize this for you here. And so marketing, you know, what Heather's doing over at Warren County, this is hard because we have our historical, we have our weekend events, we have these sporting events, and we have our residences. And you have to make it all work. And we have to package it in a way so a couple guys from Brooklyn could come up here and want to move up here. That was a great story, by the way. Because it all started making sense. But in doing that, before you can even market a sell event, I mean, we could PT Barnum it. We could sell an event before we even have it there. We could sell something great before we even have it, or we could work off what we have. And something that we've always had here, I heard someone mention, we're more than just Lake George, we're more than just Glens Falls and Queensburg. There's other small towns in around here throughout our county. And there's a binding agent to all of our cities and all of our towns here in Warren County, and it's our history. Our history really is the glue that ties us all together. You know, immediately you think of Lake George, out there, Fort William, Henry, French, and New Warren, and so on. There's more than that. And one young lady reminded us earlier today that in the smaller towns, there are things to do. There are things to do. And I think that as far as that goes, we must remember the history of it. We were talking of data, Pam was speaking of data of the different groups coming in right now. I would have never guessed on Memorial Day weekend, we have families from South Asia, India, Pakistan, and so on, trumping our hotels, filling our hotels. And I love that dollar. It's a great dollar. So what it's telling me is that though we may, well, it's telling me 2 things. Those around here might have gotten used to it. It's like when you're dating or married for a while, you don't always notice the new haircut. Because you wake up, you see the same thing every day. But for people traveling in, you're looking at Lake George, you're like, wow, this is great. I travel a lot. I go overseas a lot. And the one thing I do, wherever country I go to, I learn about their history. I go to all the sites. I hang out upside down, I kiss the rock, Ireland. But these are things you do, and all locals look at you like, you don't want to kiss that thing, we pee on that thing. You know? You know, when Ireland, you do what you do. But that mindset, though, is the mindset we have here. Sometimes we sit there, it's like, oh, it's just Lake George. I mean, the #1 lake in America, top 5 in the world. I mean, all that Lake George. We do the same thing. Honestly, we do the same thing to our wives and husbands. We do it to Lake George. But you know who doesn't do it? The family that got on a plane and traveled to America to come here. We have to remember that. Data points. Data is real. I love data. It doesn't lie. And if you don't like me, blame the computer. Yell all day. You won't hurt its feelings. It'll keep telling you the truth. We have to remember that. Where our richness, our strength, our Fort Knox is our history. It really is. The events, I'll never knock an event. I'm a capitalist. I like making money. But I also realize that today's dollar doesn't guarantee tomorrow's dollar. We all have to remember that. We have to look down the line. How can we employ people responsibly? How can we even ask for $1 if we're not looking for tomorrow? Basics. I learned that in high school. And we could do it now. I have an idea. And this is playing off of Art Matters and our history. And it's a big one here. I printed out some papers here. So I ask you not to flip through. Please take your time. Take one and pass it around if you could. Thank you. Next year is a big year for us. It's our 250th anniversary of America. 250 years. It's a pretty cool, pretty great thing. We made it 250 years. My socks last maybe 2 years, and then I lose one and they're in the trash. So we did this for 250. And I was thinking about that. I'm like, wow, man, it's so cool. Here we are, 250 years. we invented this land that we're on. We're America. And I'm like, no, we didn't invent it. I'm surrounded by Lake George and Fort William Henry, and originally with Aniatarocte was the name of the lake. And I realized, oh, wow, there's people here before us. Then it brought me back to, because Netflix late night, Last Mohegans. There I was, caught up in all the splendor. I'm like, wow, I live right there. My house is literally 1 mile away from the fort. And I really started thinking. So I went online, started making some calls, true story. And I'm like, wow, the last Mohegans, where are these Mohegans? These people that helped the colonists beat the British so we could become America. They'll be here 250 years later. You know where they're at? They're in Wisconsin. They're in Wisconsin. After the Revolutionary War, what do we do to our great allies who were decimated down to 44 left in this local tribe? Well, we started with the Mohawks because they're larger and greater. That's why we have the Mohawk River, Mohawk Valley, because they stuck around. What we do to our Mohegans, we pushed them. And now they're in Wisconsin. Look it up. It's true. and that really started me going. And I started to realize, you know, we speak of it, we never really give it the reverence that it needs. We change school logos, school mascots. That's great and all, but that's like surface for us. You're not really doing anything with that. It's not, but you know, we've become a culture, a nation of doing what looks good. Let's do the right thing and really get deep into it. I was watching Yellowstone. Sure, a lot of people here watch that show. I have a friend on one far right corner political scale named Rick. And my sister happened to be in the room who was on the total opposite end of the scale. You know what they both agreed on when we saw the scene of Native Americans being mistreated? That's horrible. That's bad. We've all did a bad thing. Never once have I ever thought that my sister and my friend Rick could agree on something. Because we're so geared today to say, no, you're a left, you're right, you're this, you're that. And they agreed on it. I'm like, wow, after all these years, we finally agreed on something. And it was a TV show named Yellowstone. And watching some bad things happen. And that's when it hit me, you know what? We're all in agreement. These people, this culture needs its due. And we're built for it. We're literally born as a nation from this idea. So my idea, if you guys want a copy, I'll get it for you. It's called Celebration of Nations, the Festival of Tribes, Lake George. Trademark pending. It's going to run, hopefully, you know, it is going to run September 28th, 2026, October 11th, 2026. You heard right. It's a 14-day in a row event. 14 days in a row. I'll explain how it's going to happen. 14 days in a row. And I'm sort of little, because right now you're thinking nothing for the last 14 days. You can't even get bikers to stay here 4 days in a row. Well, for 4 years in high school, every year I went to Gettysburg. I went to Gettysburg with my school. They put me in the bus. We went down and I saw every reenactment and I walked every field and I visited every gravesite for 4 years. Gettysburg was an event that lasted 3 days, and every school in America, lots of them, bust down there every single year for over 100 years. They've been doing this, okay? 3 days was Gettysburg. These people, right, so give you some perspective, 250th anniversary of America, these people were here before that. We could give them 14 days. We can give them 14. And if anyone says no, well, you're on the wrong side of history on that. You're flipping through. So basically what I'm thinking of, we're going to honor the traditions and heritage of the native indigenous people of North America. It's 14 days of exhibitions, events, and competition. Okay. The exhibitions go beyond, you can flip through, but the exhibitions that I'm speaking of, storytelling, crafting, daily life, weapons and tools, and so on. I got more, I'm out of copies. Down there. We have art installations throughout Shepherd Park, Wood Park, and also at the Lake George Arts Project. When I say art installations, it's more than art. Thank you. Hi, by the way, that's why I kept texting you for the name of it in Sarasota.
Oh.
Yeah. There's very interesting things going on around this country, and these large, massive art installations that we literally have the parks that we own, the fields that we own to hold these things. And also with the help of Arts Project, we can make it even larger. Events. I challenge you all to go on YouTube and look these up. Hoop dancing, drum and dance, singing, canoe racing. All these events here throughout 14 days. I've been working with Shanna Graham at the Painted Pony, Lake Luzerne in Warren County. run a Native American rodeo. I called Shanna 2 months ago. I said, Shanna, I have this idea. In Oklahoma, they have Native American rodeos. And she's like, well, I'm actually driving to Oklahoma right now. My daughter's gonna ride in college in Oklahoma. My daughter currently rides in Kentucky. She was going to a native rodeo. She's helped me put this on. She's gonna be hosting our native rodeos here. Lacrosse tournament. Anyone here big into lacrosse? Anyone ever play lacrosse? I went to school down in Albany with Sienna. My best friends went to SUNY Albany. And they know the Thompson brothers. The Thompsons, if you don't know, are not the founding fathers, but within this generation, the best lacrosse players around. 3 brothers, 1 cousin, members of the Onondaga Nation. This is also big because they may, if it passes, they could be representing the nation in the US Olympics, or sorry, for the Olympics for the first ever lacrosse game. I have a local representative, Bill O'Brien, a good friend of mine, who is a professional lacrosse player member of the nation also, who's helped me put this together, and we're gonna put together the Adirondack Medicine Game Challenge. Now we're also adding 2 weekends of lacrosse tournaments into this, families and so on to it. It's pretty cool. We're always talking of impacts. As we commemorate the 250th anniversary of America, we must remember who came before us that helped us create this foundation in which our nation was built. Those aren't just words, it's a real thing. If anyone's ever built their home, ever lived in a home, it sits on a foundation. What happens to your home if you have a bad foundation? Start to sink, jack the house up and fix it. Right now, this nation, we're at this great awesome point of it. Part of my words of awesome, but it really is awesome. 250 years right now. Now, we're starting to see a little cracks here and there. We need some fix up. This is our foundation. This is how we bolster our identity, our culture, and how we move forward. Financially, I don't like the term shoulder season either. I want to be 365 year round. Anyone that knows me here in the village, I approve events, I push for events. I was telling John earlier, you'll never see on my gravestone that I struck out looking. I swing for the moon every single time, and I really believe in this. This is a 14-day infusion, 1 to 1,500 Native Indigenous participants, volunteers, workers, tourists, and visitors, hotels, restaurants, attractions, shops, gas stations, etc. On top of all that, we get to expose a new group to Lake George. Right now, I can tell you, because I own a bar restaurant, we're becoming the capital of bachelorette bachelor parties, the party scene. Lake George, we have the party. I don't know what happened from Charlie Wood's day of the American Pie, Apple Pie America, to the drunkenness that goes on. And it's not a bad thing. Don't get me wrong. There's a place in this world for everything, but I don't want to be known for that. I want to be known for more. I want my children to live in a home in an area that's known for more culturally. It's a big undertaking. It's a huge undertaking, 14 days. And you're like, wait, how's an event like this going to work Monday through Friday? We all work in October. Well, this is how it's going to work. Monday through Friday, schools are coming in. 9 a.m., they show up. We have a circle wrapped around for 2.5 hours. They get here at 9 o'clock. They see our exhibitions, our different events. Noon, bus them over to Painted Pony. Painted Pony has agreed to feed them a lunch and give them a rodeo exhibition. Monday through Friday, both weeks. On the weekends, we start off each lacrosse tournament with a medicine game. And so the wood stick game played by Indigenous people to kick it off. Then we start a tournament. This tournament has several divisions, several age groups. When I say they're gonna have over 1,000 people each weekend just for lacrosse, it's a real thing. Anyone that does travel lacrosse understands what I'm talking about. You do not have enough rooms right now. And this is where everyone comes in. This is why we need everyone's help here. If you look at our exhibitions, our lacrosse, and our rodeo, those 3 tiers right there, imagine a battle plan here, okay? That's our infantry, exhibition, lacrosse, rodeo. We're impacting the people right there, the tourists. What I need from the supervisors, our state, I need you to be my cavalry, come up on my left flank. Because if I'm hitting with this, I need your funding, your support. We need the marketing in there. We need Heather, we need Paul. And on my right flank, I need the residents and the businesses to stay open. Give it a shot. We all like to sit there and complain. Well, then be open. How can you even hope to win if you never even show up to the game? It's always been my thing. And it grinds my teeth, and when I think about that. It's been 10 years since I lived up here, and certain people have been consistent. I'm glad John's here. John has been consistent. John puts his money where his mouth is. Vinny's consistent. Vinny's buying a new playground for our kids to play on the Holiday Inn. Thank you. These are the things that we need. So basically what I'm trying to say is that ideas come and ideas go. This idea right here is rooted in something that was paid for before we even decided to show up here. This is our history. It's in here. It's implemented already. All we need to do is tap into it. Imagine this as a well. That's all we're doing. I'm asking you to help me dig this well. The water's down there. We just need to dig it to pull it out. And it's going to take a huge undertaking. This is 14 days in a row. I'm closing my business October 12th and staying closed for 7 months to work full time on this, to travel, to go to Albuquerque, New Mexico, to go to their gathering, to meet travel chiefs, to get this thing done. And, you know, willing, we're going to get it done. But like I was saying before, we need a gel, something to pull it all together. And history is that gel. History is that gel. Can you imagine hotels, restaurants, gas stations, boats, attractions, just packed for 2 weeks? And you imagine these kids Monday through Friday. Mom, Dad, I saw this, I did this. Well, let's go back up over the weekend. All of a sudden, these people, because I have friends that do this. And when I first moved to Lake George Village, I had friends in Cleverdale who said, I'm like, hey, come down to the village. We don't go to the village. I totally get it. Totally get it. I'm not going to knock you. Cleverdale's beautiful. I like it up there. But that being said, the face of the village changed over 10 years, and we're seeing more people come in from the lake that honestly we used to avoid the village. Now you got to imagine there's families that avoided Lake George because of one bad experience, because of a 4-hour car sitting, waiting to get out of the firework. People that avoid Lake George, we can bring them back. We can show them that we're different. We grew up. Lake George grew up. And this is how you do it. And for the people traveling from other countries who are, why should we come to New York? I don't want to go to New York City. I heard there's crime in Times Square and these horrible things and people aren't welcoming. We're welcoming Lake George. We love our foreign travelers. We love our foreign workers. I've very rarely have seen a negative when it came to someone, quote unquote, not from this country. We open our arms. So we realize, like someone said, 1 out of every $4 comes for a tourist, used to be 1 out of every 2. We welcome our arms to it. We realize where our bread is buttered. And it's from these tourists, these people. I like clean roads. I like the new road going down Route 9. We get those things because you have people in here spending money and putting money into the tax pool, you know? So that's my idea. If anyone wants to talk about it, I am more than free to do it. But celebration of the tribes, pull us together. History is the glue. Thank you.
Thank you.
Someday.
Anybody else?
Yeah.
I'll turn it over to the supervisors for supervisors' comments. Anybody wish to? First, I want to thank everybody for coming. Deb, you have anything to say about tourism? Appreciate everybody coming.
I appreciate everybody coming. I think this was a great idea. I have notes.
Cousin Vinny?
I want to thank everyone for coming out. What a great turnout and what great comments. It's really exactly what we were looking for. I talked to so many of the business owners one-on-one and but I'm so happy that you brought it out here and a lot of good points. Maybe we can continue and have another meeting and in a month, once a month and
different room though.
Different room, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, the different room. But a lot of good input. I could go through this all, but let's continue talking and make something big happen. I think we have really between the land that we have available, and I think we have a generational opportunity between this board and the community and the tourist department with Heather and Paul and everybody. I think we have a great opportunity to really make something big happen. So I hope that we can keep it going. So thank you, everyone.
John, any final comments? Because you were the leading.
Yeah, well,
advocates.
I want to thank everybody, like Benny just said. Heard a lot of great ideas. I mean, linked events, and linked places, whether you're talking about hikes or bikes or history, cultural, or all the above. you know, John Lefner of the Hyde was talking about linking our cultural assets, our historical assets. But in addition to that, you know, our biking assets are real opportunities. Sam talked about data, and it will guide us as to what we might be looking for. We should use it for that purpose. And also, others talked about long-term strategic planning. Sue Wilder said, don't forget the little guys, and we shouldn't. They're a big part of this. Yeah, little towns, but big part. Tyler mentioned sports, and we have the, how many opportunities do we have to have huge sporting events here? Tyler mentioned many of them. Kathy Munsell said, let's look for the big stuff. Robert Hart said cohesion. We need to work together. Jim Siplon pointed out that 25 to 50% of spent dollars come from the outside. That's all good stuff. Amy Fallon said no shoulders, 365. We heard that from others. Tom of the Sagamore said, think big, overreaching, huge marketing effort. Alex Lombard, we're part of a big team. And he talked about the proposal for a performing arts center. And then Laura and Gary, I want to thank you for helping start this. Jose, a lot of good ideas, Jose. You know, he said he moved to the area because we're real. Now, that could mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people, but there is truth in that. So do the right thing for the total picture, Jose went on to say. We're more than just Lake George, and we need to work together, all of us, to make bigger, greater events happen. I think that, you know, some of the themes we saw over and over again, and I think they're great. I'd like to see more of these because you have a lot of good ideas and I want to hear them. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that didn't plan on keeping you here this long, but I just want to remind everybody, when you do leave the building, we have food trucks out front. Next time, so have a big thing. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I think this is a great session. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't hear from more. There's many more people in the audience who didn't get a chance to speak. And as many of you know, this is really important to me to figure out what to do with our tourism industry. So I would request that we have something like this happen again very soon.
Yes, Josh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joshua Patchett, Town of Hague. I heard a lot of really good ideas today, but one of the ones I liked the most was to generate a multi-use facility. We have to budget for it, and maybe it would be a combination of affirming art and sports, but no, we're gonna have to sacrifice a little bit to do it, and that would be something tangible, something that, you know, we'd have to, you know, put a, I don't know, form it from several different revenue sources, but you know, up in Hague, I can just see if it was centrally located, I mean, people would draw to it and really want to be a part of it. I mean, look at our housing stock. I can speak for my town and the towns around us that there's really not a lot of housing stock, and that speaks to our credit that people want to be here. They want to be part of the Lake George region. And I like the idea of sacrificing and building something that we can all benefit from together. But again, we're going to have to cut the budget a little bit, I think, to be able to invest in something like that. Thank you.
Anyone else? A motion to adjourn? We are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.